Alien commanders shocked, Deathworld Cadets Decimate 3-day battle in just 15 minutes, in the distant reaches of the galaxy, on the desolate planet of Korath, where survival was a daily struggle against the relentless environment. A group of cadets prepared for what would become the most extraordinary battle in the history of their world. Korath was known as a death world, a planet teeming with lethal flora and fauna, where only the strongest could endure. It was here that young warriors were trained to become the guardians of their people, hardened by the unforgiving landscape and the brutal trials they faced. The day had dawned ominously, with dark clouds swirling in the sky, hinting at the impending storm, but for the cadets of the Korath Vanguard Academy, it was merely another challenge to overcome. As they gathered in the training yard, their commander, Captain Vera, stood before them, her silhouette framed against the crackling energy of the morning. She was a veteran of countless skirmishes and understood the stakes of the battle that lay ahead. Today, we face an enemy that has underestimated us for far too long, she began, her voice steady and commanding. The Orician Empire, a force that has crushed planets and enslaved countless beings, believes they can easily conquer Korath. They think our youth and inexperience make us weak, but we will show them the strength forged in the fires of our home. The cadets responded with a roar of determination, their spirits high as they clutched their weapons, the distinctive plasma rifles of Korath. Each of them had endured the rigorous training, learning to harness the unique skills that the harsh environment of their home planet had imparted. They had trained relentlessly for this moment, forging bonds that transcended mere camaraderie. They were a family bound by a shared purpose. The Orician fleet had descended upon Korath, their massive ships blotting out the sun as they initiated a 3-day siege on the cadet training grounds, confident that their superior technology would crush any resistance. For the commanders of the Orician forces, it was an easy victory waiting to happen, but what they did not anticipate was the fierce resolve of the Deathworld cadets. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie twilight over the battlefield, the Araxians began their assault. They deployed ground troops and advanced machinery, expecting to break through the cadets' defenses without breaking a sweat. However, they were met with a resistance that defied their expectations. Vera and her cadets had meticulously studied the Orician tactics. They understood that the enemy would rely heavily on their technological superiority and numbers, but the cadets had a plan, one that harnessed their intimate knowledge of the terrain and their unyielding spirit. They set traps, created choke points, and utilized the planet's natural obstacles to their advantage. "Hold your positions," Vera commanded as the Araxians charged forward. The cadets took cover behind the rocky outcrops, their hearts racing, adrenaline surging through their veins. As the enemy closed in, they activated their traps. Explosions erupted across the battlefield, sending Orician soldiers flying and disrupting their advance. "Now!" Vera shouted, signaling her troops to spring into action. The cadets surged forward, their battle cries echoing against the chaos. They fought with a primal ferocity, a blend of instinct and training that had been honed in the brutal environment of Korath. The Araxians were taken aback, their formations breaking as the cadets descended upon them like a storm. The battlefield became a whirlwind of movement. Cadets darted between the Araxians, firing their plasma rifles with precision, taking down enemies in swift succession. The Araxians, confident in their superiority, were caught off guard by the relentless assault of these seemingly inexperienced warriors. As the first day of the battle progressed, the cadets' unexpected tactics began to turn the tide. The Araxians found themselves overwhelmed, their superior numbers dwindling as the cadets' strategy proved effective. Reports of their extraordinary success rippled through the Orician ranks, sparking confusion and panic among the commanders. Meanwhile, in the command center aboard the flagship of the Orician fleet, Commander Threx watched the unfolding chaos with disbelief. He had expected an easy victory and was now witnessing his troops being decimated by a group of young cadets. "What are they?" he growled, slamming his fist on the console. "They shouldn't be able to fight like this." Back on the ground, the cadets fought tirelessly, their spirit unbroken as the sun began to set on the second day. They pushed deeper into the Orician lines, determined to prove their worth and defend their home. With each fallen enemy, their confidence grew, and whispers of their victory spread among the ranks. As the night fell, the cadets regrouped, panting but resolute. "We have them on the ropes," Vera said, her eyes gleaming with determination. "But we can't let up. We need to finish what we started. Tomorrow, we will deliver the final blow." Little did they know, the Araxians were already planning their retaliation. Desperate to regain control over the situation, the commanders convened, their voices low and urgent, plotting to crush the insurrection before it could escalate any further. But Vera and her cadets had ignited a fire that could not be extinguished. As dawn broke on the third day, the battlefield was set for what would become an epic confrontation, a clash that would not only determine the fate of Korath but would echo throughout the galaxy, proving that even the smallest forces could defy the greatest empires. As the first light of dawn broke over the battlefield, casting a golden hue across the scarred ground, the cadets of Korath prepared for what they knew would be a decisive moment. The air was thick with tension, and a palpable sense of urgency filled the ranks as they readied themselves for the final assault against the Orosian forces. Vera stood before her comrades, her voice steady and commanding. "Today, we show the galaxy what Korathians are made of. They thought we were mere cadets, but we are warriors forged in the fires of this death world. Remember why we fight, remember our families, our friends, and the freedom we hold dear." The cadets echoed her sentiment, their resolve hardening as they checked their weapons and reviewed their battle strategies. They had successfully repelled the Orosian advances for 2 days, but the real test lay ahead. The Oraxians were regrouping, and they would not allow this embarrassment to continue. Inside the command tent of the Orosian flagship, Commander Threx paced furiously, his mind racing as he formulated a plan to regain control of the battlefield. "We cannot allow these wretched cadets to undermine our power. Mobilize the heavy artillery and call in reinforcements. We will crush them once and for all." His orders were delivered with venom, and the officers surrounding him nodded in agreement, fear evident in their eyes. On the ground, Vera and her cadets were already moving. They had set up ambush points throughout the battlefield, using the rocky terrain to their advantage. Jax, her second in command, coordinated with other squads, positioning them where they would have maximum impact against the advancing Oraxians. As the Orosian forces began their march, their heavy machinery rumbling across the landscape, the cadets waited with bated breath. "Hold your fire until they're in position," Vera whispered, her heart pounding. The cadets huddled behind boulders and trenches, each one aware that the moment of truth was upon them. Suddenly, the Oraxians came into view, their massive war machines leading the charge. They were formidable and intimidating, bristling with weaponry and heavily armored. Yet, beneath the surface, the Korath cadets harbored an unyielding spirit, ready to unleash chaos upon their oppressors. "Now!" Vera shouted as the Oraxians reached the designated line. The cadets sprang from their hiding spots, plasma rifles blazing. A hail of energy bolts erupted, striking the Orosian machines and sending several of them careening into the ground. Explosions rocked the battlefield, illuminating the faces of both the Korath cadets and their Orosian foes. Threx watched in horror as his troops faltered under the unexpected onslaught. "Reinforcements, now!" he bellowed, but the chaos on the battlefield made communication difficult. The Oraxians were disorganized, their formations crumbling as the cadets pressed forward with relentless energy. As Vera and her team fought through the confusion, she felt a surge of adrenaline. Each victory fueled her determination, and she could see the Oraxians beginning to panic. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting to protect their home and their way of life. "Jax, flank them from the left," Vera shouted, pointing to a group of Oraxians that had separated from their main force. Jax nodded, leading a team of cadets to outmaneuver the enemy. The element of surprise was on their side, and they exploited it ruthlessly. With each passing minute, the tide of the battle shifted further in favor of the Korath cadets. Their unity and fierce resolve overwhelmed the Oraxians, who were becoming increasingly desperate. Vera led her squad toward the command structure of the Orosian forces, determined to confront Threx and end the battle once and for all. As they approached the heart of the enemy lines, the Oraxians began to regroup, forming a defensive perimeter around their command tent. Vera knew they had to break through, and she rallied her cadets for one final push. "On my signal," she called, raising her plasma rifle high, "we push forward and take the fight to them." With a deafening roar, the cadets surged forward, charging the Orosian command center. The sound of blaster fire echoed across the battlefield as they clashed with the remaining Orosian troops. The air crackled with energy and tension, every moment stretched thin with the weight of their struggle. Threx, seeing the cadets closing in, gritted his teeth. "We will not be defeated by children," he shouted, steeling himself for the inevitable confrontation. He activated his personal shield, preparing to make a stand against Vera and her relentless charge. As Vera broke through the Orosian lines, She spotted Threx amidst the chaos, his presence radiating authority even in defeat. "This ends now," she declared, her voice rising above the din of battle. "Foolish girl," Threx retorted, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can defeat me? You are nothing but a child playing at war." With a fierce determination, Vera advanced, her squad providing cover fire. The ground shook beneath them as the last remnants of the Orician defenses crumbled. In a stunning twist of fate, the Araxians were not just retreating, they were breaking apart, their unity shattered. The final moments of the battle were a whirlwind of action. Vera confronted Threx, dodging blaster fire as she engaged him in close combat. She fought with every ounce of strength she had, drawing upon her training and the spirit of Korath itself. Each strike was not just for her, but for every Korathian who had suffered under the Orician rule. With a final surge of adrenaline, Vera disarmed Threx, sending his weapon clattering to the ground. "You underestimated us," she panted, her breath heavy. "We are not just cadets, we are the future of Korath." As she held her plasma rifle at his throat, the battle began to fade into silence around them. The Orician forces were retreating, their morale crushed. Vera could hear the distant cheers of her fellow cadets as they celebrated their victory. In that moment, as the weight of her actions settled in, Vera knew they had achieved something monumental. They had transformed from students into warriors, from prey into predators. They had decimated the Orician forces in a matter of minutes, proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the spirit of freedom would prevail. As Vera stood over the defeated Commander Threx, the reality of their incredible victory began to settle in. Around her, the battlefield was transforming. What had once been a scene of chaos was now echoing with the triumphant cheers of her fellow cadets. They had done the impossible, decimating the Orician forces that had come to subjugate them. "Let them go," Threx spat, struggling to regain his composure. "This isn't over. The Empire will not forget this humiliation." His defiance was palpable, but Vera sensed the tremor of uncertainty beneath his bravado. He was beaten, and he knew it. "Then let them come," Vera replied, her voice steady and resolute. "But not today. Today, we reclaim our world." She stepped back, signaling to her comrades to secure the area and ensure that no remaining Orician soldiers posed a threat. As the cadets surrounded Threx, capturing him and his remaining officers, the realization of their victory washed over them like a tidal wave. It was a hard-won battle, fought not only with weapons but with strategy, unity, and the fierce determination to protect their home. Vera called her squad together, adrenaline still coursing through their veins. "We need to assess our losses and check on the wounded. This victory comes at a cost." The cadets nodded, their expressions a mix of elation and solemnity as they moved to support their comrades. The aftermath of the battle revealed a scene both victorious and somber. The bodies of fallen Orician soldiers lay scattered across the battlefield, remnants of the fierce struggle that had unfolded. But among the cadets, there was also the burden of loss. Several had been injured in the fight, their brave actions not without consequence. "Get the medics here," Jack shouted, directing the cadets to assist those in need. "We need to treat our own before we celebrate." Vera moved among her troops, offering words of encouragement and support. She knew that despite their victory, the wounds of war would linger, both physically and emotionally, but the spirit of Korath prevailed, and the bonds forged in battle only deepened their resolve. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the battlefield, the cadets gathered in a makeshift circle to reflect on their triumph. Vera stood in the center, the captured Orician commander at her feet, a symbol of their victory. "We did this together," she said, her voice carrying the weight of their shared experience. "We turned the tide against an enemy that believed we were weak. We have proven to the galaxy that Korathians are a force to be reckoned with. Today, we are not just cadets, we are the defenders of our home." Cheers erupted from the cadets, a sound of celebration and solidarity that reverberated across the field. But amidst the joy, Vera remained acutely aware of the challenges that lay ahead. They had defeated one enemy, but the Orician Empire was vast and relentless. Just as the celebration reached its peak, a sharp beeping sound echoed from the command center of the Korath Vanguard Academy. Vera's heart sank as she rushed to the console, her mind racing. "What is it?" she asked, her eyes scanning the screen. A holographic display revealed a distress signal from a neighboring system. "The Araxians are regrouping," she said, her voice tense. "They're calling for reinforcements from nearby planets. If we don't act quickly, We'll be facing a much larger force. Jack stepped forward, his expression grim. What's our plan, Vera? We can't afford to be caught off guard again. We need to strike first, she replied, her mind racing. We can't let them rally their forces. We will split into 2 teams, one to hold our ground here and prepare for defense, and the other to intercept the Orician reinforcements before they can reach us. The cadets exchanged looks, a mix of apprehension and determination. We're with you, Jax affirmed, rallying his squad. Let's show them that Karath is not done fighting. Within moments, Vera organized her teams, strategizing their next moves. The adrenaline from their previous victory surged through her, igniting a fire in her heart. This was their chance to seize the initiative, to take the fight to the enemy while they still had the upper hand. As night fell, the cadets moved swiftly, employing stealth and speed. The darkened landscape of Karath, once a source of peril, now felt like an ally as they navigated through the treacherous terrain. The low hum of their weapons accompanied them as they approached the Orician position. Vera's heart raced with anticipation. They were a small force, but they had the element of surprise on their side. If they could intercept the reinforcements before they reached the battlefield, they could change the course of this conflict entirely. The tension mounted as they neared the enemy encampment, the sounds of Orician chatter growing louder. Get ready, Vera whispered, signaling her squad to take positions. We attack on my command. When the moment came, she sprang into action, leading the charge with her squadron close behind. The Araxians were caught completely off guard, their eyes widening in shock as the Karath cadets descended upon them like a storm. Vera fought with a fierce intensity, her every move fueled by the memory of the fallen and the determination to protect her home. The battle was swift and brutal, and as she pressed forward, she felt the weight of her comrades' strength at her back. Within minutes, the Orician reinforcements were in disarray, their formation collapsing under the relentless assault. The cadets had proven once again that their training, grit, and resolve could overcome even the most daunting odds. In the chaos, Threx's voice echoed in Vera's mind, a reminder of the struggle that lay ahead. The Orician Empire would not simply surrender, they would fight to the bitter end. But as she stood amidst the remnants of the Orician forces, she felt a surge of hope. They had shown that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, they could rise together. Karath would not fall, it would fight, it would endure, and it would prevail. With renewed determination, Vera signaled her team to regroup. We need to head back to the academy and prepare for the final confrontation. This war is far from over, and we must be ready to face whatever the Araxians throw at us next. With the dust of the latest skirmish settling, Vera gathered her team in a sheltered cove among the rocky outcrops of Karath. The air was thick with the smell of scorched earth, and the distant sounds of retreating Orician forces echoed behind them. The cadets were weary but exhilarated, their spirits lifted by the success of their ambush. We've achieved an incredible victory today, Vera began, her voice steady and resolute as she looked into the faces of her fellow cadets. But we can't rest on our laurels. The Araxians will regroup, and we must prepare for the final battle. Jack stepped forward, his expression serious. What's our strategy? If they bring reinforcements, we need a plan that keeps us one step ahead. Vera nodded, considering their options. We need to fortify our defenses at the academy and set up surveillance around the perimeter. If the Araxians come again, we'll be ready. At the same time, we can deploy small teams to scout the area and monitor their movements. As the cadets discussed their strategy, they felt a growing sense of purpose. Each victory had brought them closer together, forging bonds that would not easily break. They had become more than just a group of students, they were a force to be reckoned with, defenders of their home. Meanwhile, the Orician command struggled to contain the chaos that had erupted in the wake of the Carathians' unexpected resilience. Back on the flagship, Commander Threx was pacing furiously, his mind racing with frustration and anger. The failure to quell the Carathians had not only jeopardized his mission but had also risked his standing within the Empire. We cannot allow this to continue, Threx growled, addressing his officers. Send word to the nearest fleets. We need every ship, every soldier, to crush this insurrection once and for all. His officers nodded, their faces pale as they recognized the depth of his fury. They had witnessed the prowess of the Karath cadets and knew that underestimating them again could lead to utter disaster. Threx was determined to assert his authority and ensure that the Araxians did not suffer another defeat. As night descended on Karath, the cadets worked tirelessly to reinforce their defenses at the academy. makeshift barriers were erected, and patrols were set up to keep watch for any signs of the enemy. Vera led her teams with unyielding determination, instilling confidence in her comrades. "Stay sharp, everyone," she reminded them as they took their positions. "We've faced the worst they can throw at us, and we'll do it again, together." The hours crept by, the stillness of the night interrupted only by the distant howls of Karatha's wild beasts. Tension hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. Each cadet understood that the next battle could determine the fate of their planet. In the early hours of dawn, the first signs of the Orician fleet began to appear on the horizon. Shadows moved against the red sky, and the low rumble of engines grew louder. Vera's heart raced as she gathered her troops, preparing them for the confrontation that lay ahead. "Positions, everyone," she shouted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "This is it. We stand together. We fight for our home." As the Orician ships descended, the cadets took their places behind the barricades. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the massive warships landed, deploying battalions of soldiers clad in heavy armor, their weapons gleaming in the morning light. "Remember your training," Vera called out, her voice firm and steady. "We will use the terrain to our advantage. Stick to the plan." The Oraxians advanced, their formations tightening as they prepared to launch their assault. Vera could see the familiar face of Commander Threx among them, his presence a reminder of the challenges they had faced. This time, he would not underestimate them. The first wave of Orician soldiers surged forward, and the cadets opened fire. Plasma bolts illuminated the battlefield, illuminating the determination etched on their faces. The chaos erupted anew as the two forces clashed, the sounds of battle drowning out the world around them. Vera fought fiercely, her movements fluid and precise. Each shot fired was a testament to the countless hours of training, each maneuver a reflection of the bond they had forged. Jax fought at her side, covering her as they navigated the tumultuous battlefield. "Flank them from the right," he shouted, gesturing to a group of Oraxians attempting to breach their defenses. Vera nodded, her heart pounding as she led a small team to execute the maneuver. The Oraxians were relentless, their superior numbers challenging the cadets' resolve. But as the battle raged, it became clear that the Carathians were not fighting for mere survival. They were fighting for their home, their families, and their future. Amidst the chaos, Vera spotted Threx again, directing his troops with a fierce determination. "We need to take him down," she called to Jax. "He's the key to breaking their morale." "On it," Jax replied, his eyes fierce as he charged toward the enemy commander. The two friends fought their way through the throng of Orician soldiers, their focus singular. Threx was a formidable opponent, but Vera and Jax had the advantage of teamwork and spirit. As they neared the commander, the battle around them blurred into a haze of movement and sound. With a final push, they broke through the ranks, closing in on Threx. Vera raised her weapon, adrenaline surging through her veins. "This ends here, Threx," she shouted, the fire of determination burning in her eyes. "Foolish cadets," Threx roared, raising his weapon in defiance. But before he could fire, Jax lunged forward, disarming him in a swift movement. Vera took the opportunity to subdue him, forcing him to the ground. As Threx struggled beneath them, the tide of battle began to shift. The Orician forces, seeing their commander captured, hesitated. Whispers of doubt spread among their ranks as the Carathians pressed forward with renewed vigor. "Now's our chance," Vera shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Let's finish this." With the weight of their combined strength, the cadets surged forward, pushing back the Oraxians. The relentless assault and the capture of Threx shattered the enemy's resolve. The Orician soldiers began to retreat, their formation breaking apart under the onslaught of Carathian determination. Victory was within reach, but Vera knew they had to maintain their focus. "Don't let up, we've come too far to let them escape." As the last remnants of the Orician forces fled, the battlefield erupted in cheers. The cadets had done it, they had defeated the Oraxians and reclaimed their home. The spirit of Korath had prevailed, and they stood united in their triumph. As Vera surveyed the battlefield, the weight of their victory began to sink in. They had fought valiantly, and although there would be scars left behind, they had proven their strength. Korath would endure, and they had become the guardians of their planet. With Threx captured and the Orician threat diminished, Vera knew their journey was far from over. There would be challenges ahead, but they would face them together, united as one. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the battlefield, Vera turned to her comrades, her heart swelling with pride. "We did this together," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "We are Carathians, and we will always fight for our home." With the cheers of victory echoing across the battlefield, Vera took a moment to catch her breath. The remnants of the Orician forces were retreating, their morale shattered, and Commander Threx was firmly in their custody. The sight of their enemy fleeing was a balm for the souls of every Carathian cadet, a testament to their resilience and unity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the battlefield, Vera gathered her team. They were bruised and weary but victorious. She looked around at her comrades, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and elation. They had done the impossible, something that would be remembered in the annals of Carathian history. "We fought hard," she began, her voice rising above the noise. "But this victory is not just about us, it's about our families, our homes, and every person who believed in us. Today, we showed the galaxy what it means to be Carathian." The cadets erupted into cheers once more, their spirits soaring. Vera felt a surge of pride as she gazed at them. They were more than just a group of individuals. They were a family forged in the fires of battle, bound together by their shared experiences and struggles. As the celebration continued, Jax approached her, a grin plastered on his face. "We actually did it. I can't believe we turned the tide so quickly." "It wasn't just luck," Vera replied, her expression serious. "We trained hard, and we had each other's backs. That's what made the difference." But even in the midst of their triumph, Vera's mind remained focused on the future. They had won a battle, but the war was far from over. The Orician Empire would not let this defeat go unanswered. As they celebrated, she resolved to prepare her team for whatever came next. "Let's take Threx back to the academy and make sure he's secured," she said, her voice resolute. "We need to extract any information we can from him. If the Oraxians regroup, we need to be ready." With the captured commander in tow, the cadets made their way back to the Korath Vanguard Academy, their hearts filled with hope and determination. As they approached the academy gates, Vera could see the flags of Korath fluttering proudly, a symbol of their resilience and spirit. In the following days, they began the work of fortifying their defenses and strategizing their next steps. Threx, now a prisoner, was brought before them for interrogation. Vera stood among her comrades as they listened to the commander's defiant words, his bravado fading in the face of their determination. "You think this is over?" Threx sneered, his eyes filled with contempt. "You've merely delayed the inevitable. The Orician Empire will rise again, and you will all be crushed beneath our might." Vera stepped forward, her gaze steady. "You underestimate the spirit of Korath. We will not be crushed. We will fight, and we will win." As they extracted vital information from Threx, the cadets grew more prepared for the possibility of future attacks. They trained harder than ever, forging new tactics and strategies that utilized their unique skills and strengths. The camaraderie among them deepened, solidifying their bond as a united force. Weeks passed, and the cadets continued to defend their home, conducting scouting missions and securing alliances with neighboring systems. News of their victory spread throughout the galaxy, igniting a spark of hope in other worlds threatened by the Orician Empire. The Carathians became a beacon of resistance, inspiring others to stand up against tyranny. Vera and her team were no longer just cadets, they were symbols of hope, proving that even the smallest forces could challenge the mightiest of empires. Finally, the day came when the Oraxians attempted to launch a counteroffensive, but Vera and her comrades were ready. They had prepared for this moment, their training and sacrifices culminating in a plan designed to protect their world once and for all. As the Orician ships descended upon Korath, the cadets took their positions, every heartbeat a testament to their resolve. Vera stood at the forefront, her heart pounding with anticipation. "This is our moment," she shouted, rallying her comrades. "We will show them what Carathians are made of." With a resounding roar, the cadets launched into battle, their spirits unyielding. The Oraxians, once again, faced the unbreakable will of the Carathians. As the two forces clashed, Vera fought with every ounce of strength she had, embodying the spirit of her people. The battle raged on, fierce and unrelenting, but the determination of the Carathians shone brighter than any star in the galaxy. With teamwork and strategic prowess, the cadets turned the tide once more, pushing back the Orician forces and reclaiming their skies. At the end of the conflict, as the smoke cleared and the sun set over Korath, Vera looked out over the battlefield, her heart swelling with pride. They had defended their home, once again proving that the spirit of Korath would never be extinguished. Together, they had forged a legacy of courage and resilience that would resonate throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Vera knew that this was only the beginning. The fight for freedom and justice would continue, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And as the stars twinkled overhead, the cadets of Korath stood united, prepared to defend their world, their families, and their future. They had shown the universe that even the most unlikely heroes could rise to the occasion, and together, they would stand strong against any foe.